I'm going to begin by asking, does it ever get normal seeing your worlds and your words come to life on screen?
Does it ever get normal? No, not at all. It's always kind of amazing. Whether it's like I'm on a set watching something being filmed or at home, I always gather my family and watch my own shows, I have to admit. And it's always a thrill and just like this kind of shake your head that this is kind of an amazing path I've been on. Uh, to have stories go the distance like this, and some of the stuff we adapt is pretty old, sometimes more than 20 years old. So to see it come to life like that in the hands of such skilled writers, players, directors, crew, it's like the best case scenario coming true. So no, it never gets old.
So, what can sort of fans of the kind of the Bosch franchise and especially Bosch Legacy season one expect of this latest season?
I think we've ratcheted up the intensity. We ended season one with quite a cliffhanger, and I guess we knew not to tantalize and keep people hanging too long, so we kind of handle the cliffhanger of what happens to Maddie in 2 episodes, and if you ask me, that's a movie, the way this worked. And there's other things going on, and we set up the rest of the season. But what happens to Maddie, people have waited a long time. I think a lot of people are worried about this character. The last time I was in London, this guy held the door for me at the Covent Garden Hotel, a guy who was working there, and as I was getting in, he goes, "I'm awfully worried about Maddie." And so we're very aware of that. So we kind of handle it very quickly in a really riveting 2 episode arc at the beginning of the show that we're very proud of. And I think fans are going to love it.
Yeah. On behalf of all fans, thanks for handling that quickly. There's nothing worse than things like that just eating away at an audience for over a long period of time. But what is it about this character of Harry Bosch that you think audiences do just find so captivating that keeps allowing for him to return to our screens in yet another season?
Well, I would say 99.99% of the people who watch this show have never solved the murder. So it's not about him solving murders. I think it's about the way he connects to the world, the way he connects to his daughter, and there's kind of an everyman quality to that. And he operates under that basic tenet that of being fair, doing to others. Everybody counts or nobody counts. And I think that's where the connecting points are. Harry Bosch is frustrated by the things that we all are frustrated by: politics, bureaucracy, and so forth. And so that's where we're very conscientious about making our connecting points. It's not about like people tune in to see how do you solve a murder. There's a million shows and books you can go for that. They tune in for character, and somehow Harry, Money Chandler, Maddie, they're all connecting with people, I believe.
So how do you, as the writer, keep things fresh when it comes to this character? To not just keep audiences kind of captivated and engaged, but to keep yourself kind of constantly engaged as well with this world?
Yeah, I've been living with Harry Bosch for like 32 years plus. So I just had this, I'm a writer because I'm a reader. And I knew the kind of series that I loved, they went the distance or they didn't, because the author, the writers knew they got to pivot all the time. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. You look for pivots, and what I mean by pivots, it can be in terms of like a job, but most often it's a character thing, and we've done that in the shows as well. Harry went from this loner guy who was kind of built himself as being bulletproof. No one could get to him. And then now suddenly he's raising a daughter, and the relationship with the daughter takes over as the main through line. So we're always looking for pivots. We've had him quit the police department. He's now doing other things. This new season that we're working on, a third season, and it's about him, working for a defense attorney. So if you took what will ultimately be the 10th season of Bosch and connected it to the first season, you wouldn't see the guy doing this. So we're always looking for changes, and looking to change things up.
I mean, such a wonderful character. I'm just wondering, does he hold secrets from you? I mean, because you're his creator, you're his god, if you will. And this might sound like a really silly question, but the characters almost take a life on their own after a while?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it is a craft, I think. It's not like I'm hearing Harry Bosch talking to me in my head, but I've been immersed in this character for just about half of my life. So he's important to me. He's in my thoughts. And it's kind of like the same answer. I'm always thinking about where I can send him in a new way. So, and also the books as well as the show, it's a weird thing. It's like you move forward at the same time you're moving back and filling in his history. And I don't really know all of his history. There's countless episodes in his life that I can discover as I keep moving forward with him. And so, yeah, if you want to call those secrets, yeah, there's a lot of his life I don't know about yet. And I hope, before I'm finished as a writer, I get to touch on a lot of it.
I'm interested to know as well, now when you write stories about Harry and all the other characters in this kind of world, did you now picture the actors as the characters that you created?
Harry, I've been living with too long. I mean, I think Titus is an absolutely perfect Harry Bosch. I was the one that actually threw his name out first about 12 years ago. And so we have the right guy playing Harry Bosch. But I was 20 years into Harry Bosch, and I like to create in my head as I'm writing. So I've got an imaginary Bosch in my head that still is there, and Titus hasn't been able to dislodge it yet. But Titus's voice is certainly in my head, and that might sound like a offhand thing, but the voice is very, very important. And Titus's voice, I think, is so good and so Harry that I hear his voice when I'm writing, or when I'm writing dialogue, things like that. So he's almost there. I would assume that pretty soon his visual image as well will be pushing out the one I've been carrying around for a long time.
Of course, I mean, you have the kind of power over your characters' lives and their destiny, but you don't have, obviously, is the power and lives over the actors. And I mean, obviously, we lost Lance, which was such a sad blow to the industry, such a wonderful actor this year. What does it mean to you to have had the opportunity to work with actors like Lance Reddick across the course of the Bosch kind of series and world?
Well, it means a lot. And yeah, that was a punch to the heart to lose him, because it was so unexpected. I mean, the guy was in such great shape, and then you add to it, he was such a nice man. That's what people don't see. You spend a lot of time with these people. You spend years with them, and you spend 12-hour days on the set. A lot of it is sitting around while the crew's doing their work and setting things up. So there's a lot of opportunity to get to know people. And I remember talking to Lance on the phone and trying to convince him to take the part, because I said, we will be different from the guy you played in The Wire, and I promise you that. And I think we made good on that promise. He felt that, and he was very proud of his work on Bosch. And the whole thing is beyond sad. The Bosch shows are the longest running things on streaming. Those shows go on 9 seasons, and so we're definitely a family, and we lost a key member of our family. So even now, it hurts.
So my final question, I've only got time for one more, was I watched a documentary yesterday called The Pigeon Tunnel, which was a documentary about the life of John le Carre. And he was talking about how so much of his life comes into the worlds that he creates. I just wondered, is that the same for yourself, even without realizing? Do you find that, is it just natural for an author and a writer's kind of life to really come through in their work and in their universes?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to build a wall between them. I tried, in the early years of the Bosch books. I just thought it'd be more fun to write about a man and a world completely different from my own. So in those early books, I have no real connection, but it is impossible to keep that wall up. It gets knocked down, and you start sharing your own life. I mean, most notably, Harry Bosch, Mickey Haller, the Lincoln Lawyer. We all have daughters who are the exact same age, that went to the same schools and things like that. So, it bleeds over. and you start sharing yourself. And so then you get into the worldview that a character might have. The way Harry is optimistic but disappointed most of the time. That's my view. I mean, and I think it's a very common thing. I'm not unique, and I think that's one of the reasons why he connects with people, whether it's on the page or the screen. But I'm not saying Harry Bosch is a dimension of me, but we share a lot, and I think, to keep him going so many years, I had to do that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for this character and all these wonderful stories. And I look forward to seeing what more's to come.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your interest.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!